Some groups don't get along, and they're always fighting with each other. But right here, we're not talking about people. People always have problems with each other, but they've only done this for a few thousand years. But there's another group that has been battling it for millions of years. This is World War Ant. We are very new onto this planet. Do you see this little ant? It has been here way longer than us, so it deserves its spot on the planet. Ants have been around for around 160 million years, and they're living peacefully. Actually no, with a bunch of wars. Right now, there's around 16,000 different types of ants, and their population is 1,250,000 times the human population. So for every one human, there's 1,250,000 ants. If you weigh every animal on the planet, 20% of that goes to ants. You have to know that ants have societies and they live with each other. One ant has no power, can't do anything, but when you add them to the hundreds of thousands or millions, they can do something. If you've seen our video about Emergence on Unending, you have to know that how powerful a group of things can get. When they live in a society, they basically have their own responsibility, and each of them does their job correctly. But this is one society of ant we're talking about. A little bit that way, there's another society that lives there. And just like the other one, they're running an organized society. And that is why they're always looking to expand. Either way, any society these ants live in, wars are a normal thing. You have to know that a colony of ants that has over 1 million ants, in a day, they could hunt down 500,000 insects and bring their dead bodies to the colony so they can store it for food later. Ants don't only kill smaller insects, they kill giant insects, even roaches that are way bigger than them. They also kill very small insects like termites. It's good to know that they also attack wasp nests, wasps that are way bigger than them. It's not like the wasps are not capable of fighting them, but they can't fight the huge group of them. They might be able to kill like 100 of them, but whenever 100 pulls up, 1,000 more come behind it. And that basically causes the nest to be completely destroyed. These ants are very brave about what they do. And when they're doing their job, they're not afraid of dying at all. When ants are working outside their colony, any insect they see, they attack. Other ants are a part of this as well, ants that are not part of this colony. You've seen in our video on Emergence, when the ants meet each other, they know exactly if this guy is a part of their colony or not. If they're a stranger, they attack right then and there. They also get backup, so they attack with more soldiers. Life has no meaning anymore. They only have to kill each other. It's not always a fair fight either. It could be giant ants fighting with small ants. In this situation, the bigger ant will win, But if they're an even fight, the winner is the one that's farther from the colony, because the one that's closer to the colony has to get back up and has to retreat back inside the colony, and the war goes inside the colony. And the ones that retreat back to the colony are usually the losers. And the war is not over until one side of the ants is completely dead. And they don't take no prisoners or slaves to take back. Most ant colonies have a lookout and are watching out for threats. If they see bigger ants attacking their way, they immediately go back to the colony and say, we have to escape, because if we stay, we're doomed. In this situation, the entire colony starts to leave. There's a type of ant called the leafcutter ant. This society has a few types of ants. The workers are normal ants that do normal work. But the soldiers are giant because they're 100 times the worker's size. The leafcutter ant is not afraid of anything. They might be weaker than other ants, but they're not afraid of anybody. The only ant that has the guts to fight the leafcutter ant is an army ant. They're not any bigger, but they surprise attack. They know when to attack to have a surprise going on for the colony. When the workers see a war going on, they don't just stand still and just watch. They enter the battlefield and start to have a war. If the army ants are able to make the leafcutter ants retreat into their colony, the goal is not to kill every leafcutter. If they reach the storage of where they keep the food, that's all they want. They want to steal that and bounce out of there. And they don't care if they kill every ant or not. The war between ants is everywhere, from your garden to sands or the beach, in the tree, on the leaves, even in the cracks of the sidewalk. And there's nobody that comes in between them to have them have a peace conference. They should somehow unite like humans and be friends with each other. Although humans are very bad at this as well, so we shouldn't be talking about that. An ant is pretty dumb, and it has no plan or will. But when they get together, they become so smart that they could make massive structures and form huge colonies. When they are together, they can plan what to eat, how to expand the base, and when they are in danger, they'll go to war. Isn't it weird that an insect this dumb can be so organized? This is Emergence. One fascinating thing about the universe is emergence. And the meaning of it is that small things get together and form complex structures. You could find emergence in everything. The molecules that form water are extremely different from water. Let's say you go in the rain and your clothes get wet. You feel wetness on your clothes, but if you zoom in, you'll see a bunch of molecules that are stuck together. And where are they sitting? On the atoms of your clothes. Water is a good example for emergence. The same molecules that make your clothes wet, they are the same ones that form water, or when they hold their hands together, they become ice. Or in another form, a snowflake. Another way to think about it is that you can think of layers, and the more layers of molecules stacks on top of each other, the more complex it gets. Atoms get together and form molecules. Molecules get together and form proteins. Proteins get together and form cells. Cells get together and make organs. So every layer you go up, it gets more complex. And more complex than that, all these organs and body parts get together and form you. And people like me and you get together and form society. You saw how we went from one atom to a whole society? Wait here, let's go back to the ants. How do ants split jobs? Let's say it's 25% workers, 25% caretakers, 25% soldiers, and the last 25% gatherers. How do they split these jobs? They didn't split anything. When the ant is born, it has one of these jobs, and the chemical that it gives off shows what job this ant has. A soldier has a certain smell, and when a worker ant passes by a soldier ant, they both know who is who and what they do. You could say an ant's memory is extremely strong and it remembers who it passes by, so they remember how many soldiers they saw and who that soldier was, and can pinpoint which soldier he saw. When an anteater attacks a colony, all kinds of ants die, and that is why the colony gets messed up, and if it's not fixed fast, they all starve to death. Like sometimes when you see an ant colony that gets attacked, a lot of ants die. Let's say all the gatherers die. When gatherers are not there, everybody starves to death. But when ants are together, they're very smart and see how they can fix this issue. This stupid ant by itself gets extremely smart when it's in a colony. When all the gatherers die, all the ants walking by each other acknowledge each other, and they remember what kind of a worker they saw. And when they walk for a while but not notice any gatherers, they turn themselves into a gatherer, because they understand that there's a shortage of gatherers. And the cool part is that when they switch jobs, they switch smells, so the other ants can know which job this ant has. They work so well and organized that a destroyed colony can get back on its feet right away. But an ant is simple. Emergence can be found everywhere. Atoms, molecule, protein, cells, all these are the same. They're like the ant. They adjust their own colony, and they have no boss telling them what to do. They know exactly what to do. The smallest living thing is a cell. If you look at the inside of these cells and take anything out, that cell dies. You could say that about your body as well. If you take a major organ like the colon out, you're not going to be living anymore. When you look at a single cell under the microscope, just like the one ant, it's pretty dumb and stupid. But when they get together, you cannot stop them anymore. They'll form the most complex things you've ever seen. Things that we have no clue how they work. Pretty much like the brain. All these stupid cells got together and formed you. And you can breathe, eat, look at your laptop, open up YouTube, and watch an Unending Ink video. All this is because of the cells. When you think about it, it's extremely complex. How do these cells work so well together? Billions of your cells have a job to make a heartbeat. And these billions of cells have to work together and cause a shake in your heart, and that shake is a heartbeat. After a lot of research, scientists have found out that when a cell does something, the surrounding cells copies them. Even after all that, it's extremely complicated because when all the cells work together, the one that pumps out and the one that pumps in, they all have to work together. Trillion little living things work together, your heart works properly, and blood flows all throughout your body. What about the most important part of our body? The same one that asks all these questions and the same one that answers them. The brain. The brain is the same. It's formed with different types of cells and has made this, the thing that can think to the end of the universe. Even though this is the thing that comes up with all these questions, we still don't know much about it compared to every other part of our body. The cells that make up our brain is kind of like countries. What makes a country a country? Their people, the land, the buildings, the flag. A country has no face, no brain, no feet or hands. It's not a living thing, but you could say it's formed with living things. And just like the ant colony, people working together make it work. For making their countries better, they can do constructions, build roads, build cities, build weapons, and go to war. And they could also be destroyed, pretty much like the ants. But that country gets better and better as long as the people work better and better. From the normal worker to the top professor. Everybody works together and makes a complex, smart thing like a country. And if a country wants to be on top, just like the ants, they have to work together and do their work properly. We don't know why, but in the whole universe, emergence makes sense. In all kinds of shapes and sizes, emergence is there. So please let us know, what do you guys think about this? Unfortunately, we're back to talking about wars, but fortunately, this time is not between humans, it's between ants. The Ant World War has been going on for hundreds of millions of years, and a peace treaty has not been signed yet. Ants don't only have a culture of having wars between each other, they have another habit that shows they have no mercy. There are a lot of different types of ants that have slaves. We don't know how they started slavery or how they realized that they can do this. The most merciless slaver ant is called the Polyergus, and sometimes it's referred to as the Amazon ant. Scientists that studied this type of ant could not believe what type of animal this is. They realized that Polyergus has had slaves for such a long time that the Polyergus ant itself doesn't know how to take care of itself whatsoever. They don't work, they don't build anything, they don't even look for food because the slaves do everything for them. It's interesting to know that 80 to 90% of a Polyergus ant colony is slaves. Just imagine 90 slaves, 9 Polyergus ants, and 1 queen. But allow us to talk about a different type of ant, the Formica ant. The Formica ant colony is very active, and each of them are doing their job while the queen is making babies. They have a very chill life and they're not looking for trouble. It's good to know that Formicas are very good for farmlands, and that is why farmers love Formica ants around their land, because they're an anti-parasite type ant. Either way, the Formica colony is set up and it's working well, but they don't realize that a single lone Polyergus ant is watching their ant colony. The name of a lone ant that goes looking for colonies to attack is called a scout, and this was the scout that was checking out the colony. The scout basically takes pictures of the colony and remembers everything, and rushes back to the clan. When the scout gets back to the colony, he or she releases a type of smell that screams, "I have found treasure and you need to follow me to this place." They very quickly get the army ready and start heading towards the other colony. The Formica ants are busy doing their job, but they're not paying attention on what is going on. The distance between ant colonies is very short, less than 150 meters. But even though it's not far at all, it takes half a day for these ants to march that way. Formica ants are not good warriors whatsoever. Their only self-defense mechanism is that they release a type of acid that's supposed to scare the opponent. But the Polyergus ants are not scared of this liquid. They quickly enter the nest of the colony and attack everybody. And they attack in a way that their self-defense mechanism doesn't work on them. Polyergus ants are the only ants that practices chemical warfare. They release a type of chemical at war that basically makes the enemy's ant go dumb. What's the point of this attack by the Polyergus? They're killing everybody. The main point of this attack is the colony's young. They need the babies for work. After the Polyergus kills an ant, they take the baby eggs and take it back to their colony. Let's say they take the eggs back to their colony. How do they turn these kids into slaves? You have to know that ants conquered planet Earth around 100 million years ago and basically took over in every part. And in such a long time, they have communicated with one another. It's because of the communications that they know everybody in a single colony. They know who's a warrior, who's a worker, who's a builder, or who's the enemy. And most of the communication is done via chemicals and different smells. To make a slave baby by the Formica ants, they release a certain smell, and the Formica is basically fooled to thinking it's one of them, and they have to listen whatever they tell them. Scientists basically call this type of mission brainwashing a baby ant. They train the baby in a way that they will sacrifice their life for their work and be a servant until the day they die. Polyergus train these slaves so well that they don't even get food. The slave brings the food and puts it in the Polyergus' mouth. The Formica ant is so brainwashed that if it sees another Formica, it would think it's an enemy and it will attack it. Polyergus don't really work, but they're good at one thing. As you know, ants don't live for a few months. That is why they're always looking to find colonies to attack so they can bring new slaves to the colony. So how does a Polyergus ant colony shape? These ants don't work, they don't do nothing, they don't even know how to find food. So how is a Polyergus queen supposed to start an empire? The Polyergus queen is a master of opportunity. It basically begins by finding an ant colony, and it could be any type of ant. The queen enters a colony and immediately releases chemicals and a smell. When the smell reaches the workers and the ants in the colony, they basically get brainwashed once again, and they don't know that an intruder has entered their colony. When the queen fools everybody, its goal is to reach the queen of the entire colony and kill that queen and take its place. Usually, the Polyergus queen will win this battle. After it kills the queen, it rubs itself against the dead queen so it could smell like her, and just by the smell alone, it fools the entire colony. After this, the entire colony knows her as the queen, and they bring her food. Usually Formica ants have more than one queen in a colony, and a polyergus queen cannot defeat colonies that have more than one queen, and that's obvious because she's outnumbered. But when a colony has a single queen, it's more of a fair fight, and the queen could very easily take over the entire colony by winning a battle. And that basically means what the queen does is enslave the entire colony by killing their queen. So what happens when the polyergus grows up? Nothing. They don't do anything because the slaves are doing everything for them. Only a few of them are turned into scout to go look for other colonies that they could attack for slaving. A very simple yet very smart creature in the universe. And when you compare it to other creatures, you see how merciless it is. You really can't find another animal that it's this merciless and actually has slaves. The only living thing that's more merciless than ants is humans, and it had slaves itself. But not anymore, except some places. But when you're walking on the ground, just know that a world war is taking place underneath your shoes that has been going on for millions of years, and it seems like it doesn't want to end anytime soon. World War Ant.